After the Imola race got cancelled, Mercedes decided not to waste any more time and bring their huge upgrade package to Monaco for the next race. While the downforce needs for Monaco definitely work well with the upgrade package for the W14 car, it's one of the riskiest races that the team could have picked to bring such a big, direction-changing upgrade to their car. Still, Mercedes has shown that they don't have time to waste, and with Monaco being Monaco, they're definitely hoping for a front-row finish in qualifying and want to keep this advantage throughout the whole race. So will the new upgrades help them get their first win of the season? The Silver Arrows started the season badly as the W14 turned out to be a car with too strong of a front end and no rear downforce at all. What this really meant was that the car had a lot of trouble making downforce from the rear wing and the floor, the two main parts that create downforce in the new rules, with the floor being the most important. That's why the Monaco upgrades will include a new floor, new front suspension, and a brand new sidepod design, one that people think is a mix of the Armour 23 and the RB19 cars. But besides the rear downforce problem, what was the main issue that the W14 struggled with? As I mentioned earlier in this video, the strong front end seemed like too big of a problem to solve for Hamilton, who said that the car was very hard to predict in slow corners and the braking points were very difficult to figure out as well. What this meant was that Hamilton and Russell had to give up some straight line speed before they got to the corner, braking earlier, and because the car was so unstable, they had to speed up a bit later after leaving the corner. These are the parts where Red Bull and Aston Martin were able to get the most advantage, and that's been done by having a car that has a huge amount of downforce. However, the W14 had none of this in the first 5 races, and it was most obvious in Bahrain, a track that needed medium downforce on the cars. Imola is a track that's called a high downforce one, meaning that if Mercedes upgrades turn out to work, then it would be the best thing that the team could have hoped for. But will it be enough to challenge Verstappen and Perez? According to Wolff and Russell, the car design by itself will not be enough to beat the Red Bulls ahead, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. So what they wanted to do at this point was to keep their hopes low to medium, so if the car doesn't give the results that they want it to give, they won't get criticized for getting too excited about the new design that has James Allison's fingerprints all over it. When talking about what to expect from the design, Russell went on to say that even though the W14 started to show some fight and be competitive in Miami with the same old design, they still finished 30 seconds behind Red Bull and a good amount behind Alonso. So while the design itself is pushing the team in the right direction, it's not enough to make them race winners. What's good news for Mercedes is that they'll also bring upgrades to 2 different places, Barcelona and Silverstone, and on top of that, they can count on 17 extra hours of wind tunnel time they have compared to Red Bull as the season goes on. But we'll talk about that later in this video. First, let's see what Wolff had to say about the upgrade and what the newest news is about the W14 in Monaco. When talking about it, the Austrian man explained how big it is, calling it major surgery because they're bringing 3 different parts, and putting all of them together in one piece of machinery will definitely be a huge challenge that the team will have to overcome. He also added, "I think what we're trying to do with the upgrade is to create a new starting point for us, to take question marks and unknowns out of the equation, and to say this is not a problem now that we have gone to a different setup. That is, for example, front suspension. We're also looking at bodywork solutions that are, let's say, more normal than others that will create different airflow. It's almost like a reset to what would have been a good start 12 months ago, and then to try to add performance to the car. But at the moment, it's just the lack of understanding. One thing that Mercedes really struggled with was predicting how the car would perform at certain tracks. True, they did find out that they can deliver good results on tracks that are front limited. But that's nowhere near enough for you to be competitive in a season where you have a team that threatens to win every race of the season. Most of the time, the car would have given good results when you would expect it the least, and that was basically the whole story of the 2022 season one that Mercedes called a data gathering one. However, even though the upgrades are pushing Mercedes in the right direction, To think that they would battle with Red Bull with just one major upgrade is a bit of an unrealistic idea. Even Steiner himself said that adding 0.5 of a second in just one upgrade package with the budget cap and the development path of the 2023 season is impossible. After the Miami race and before the cancellation of the Italian race, Hamilton was asked whether he thinks he can compete with the Red Bulls at Imola with the new upgrade, and his answer was that unless the upgrade brings a 1-second advantage per lap time, then there is no way he'd be competitive for the win. Wolff, on the other hand, has also said no to the idea that the car's upgrade will be something that would boost the performance to the level that Hamilton has asked for. When looking at the goals for Imola and for the rest of the season, the Austrian went on to add, "I don't believe in miracles, but I think that the stability of the car and the predictability for the drivers is not good enough. If you believe sorting that out helped by a front suspension redesign, then that's definitely a good path. And this could be more than a tenth or two on lap time. But the aerodynamic package brings more from simply unlocking more drivability and pace. No other cars should be moving forward immediately, but we know what we want to deliver in terms of aerodynamic performance, and hopefully also better behavior of the car. Obviously, Mercedes' performance in Monaco will be under a huge question mark, and a 0.3 of a second improvement will definitely put them in a fight for podiums, yet it will be far from Red Bull's performance. So where are the silver arrows seeing the opportunity to challenge Verstappen or Perez further down the road? In the middle of the season, the teams are starting to get the rewards from the aerodynamic facilities, and it seems like Mercedes feels like they can use the 17 extra hours in these facilities to make themselves competitive again. If they manage to deliver a good and working design for the W14, then there shouldn't be a problem in closing the gap further to Red Bull. However, this would be very hard to achieve at Imola, a track that favors Red Bull much more than it does Mercedes, because of the downforce requirements. Yet we mustn't forget that all of the upgrades that Mercedes is bringing to Monaco are to fix the downforce requirements of the car. So even though we may not see them fighting for wins, they could definitely grab a podium on pure speed. If they manage to do so, then it's safe to say that they have achieved the platform that Wolff was talking about. And ultimately, that was the main goal of the Mercedes upgrade. One thing that Mercedes can bet on in Monaco is how unpredictable the track is. Anything can happen here. And if you're fast with a little bit of luck, you can get a front row starting position on Sunday and then just cruise for the win, hoping that the tactics and the reliability will serve you well. On top of that, Mercedes is also risking a lot by bringing these upgrades to Monaco, given the fact that Russell and Hamilton will have zero chance of making a mistake because of how narrow the circuit is. But it just goes to show that Mercedes doesn't have time to waste anymore. Andrew Chauvelin also spoke about the upgrades that Mercedes were supposed to bring to Imola, but are now moving to Monaco, and while he understands that the new parts will deliver stronger pace, he also confirmed that this is just the first, and by far not the last step, towards recovering from 1.5 years of developing a car with the wrong design. When talking about it, Chauvelin added, "The Imola package are the first steps in that direction. We're hoping to bring other updates later in the year. We do hope that it's quicker. We hope that it's better in terms of qualifying and pace. The key thing though is that we're not just looking to bring a lap time update. We're looking to head off in a different development direction, one that we think gives us a better chance in the long term of being able to challenge for race wins and world championships." With this in mind, we do have a lot to look for in Monaco because Mercedes is by far not the only team that's bringing upgrades and is looking to challenge the dominance of Red Bull. However, they are the only team that's bringing something brand new, which only increases the chance that we'll hear the British anthem after every race more frequently.